Hey, how's it going? All right. So let me just pull up your form here quick. All right, so you're looking for just playing games and seeing what I can pick out as far as habits and that sort of stuff? Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Um, Potentially, but like the reason I have people sign up for time slots rather than signing up for like a lesson is just because when stuff like this happens, it throws off my schedule as far as streaming and as far as like coaching goes, because that effectively takes an hour slot out of my time for today that can't like reasonably be used for anything else. Like I can't just reasonably be like, oh, somebody is on hold here, I can just slot them in here, you know. um so I kind of have to be strict about making sure that I feel bad about it, but I it's caused me quite a bit of problems before. So it's not a result of you doing anything like awful or anything. It's just a result of this stuff that's happened before. Okay. So what's your Nintendo ID? Discord would probably make it easiest. Got it. All right. And then who do you play? Okay, cool. Mhm. Yeah. um well, yeah, so I was definitely one of the people, like main people at UBC who kind of like started the Smash stuff there. Um and I'm trying to think how well, I mean, we did a lot of advertising as far as like Smash tournaments and like that sort of stuff. But how we pulled in the majority of the people was just through, well, yeah, we through advertising for like tournaments and stuff that we held at the university. And then after people came to the like first tournament, having just like, we had a setup set up like in the club room like almost every day, and people would just kind of like roll by and play friendlies and stuff, and that really kind of created like an actual like community that these people felt like they wanted to kind of come back to. um so that's how we kind of started most of our stuff. I'm not really affiliated with them at this point, but they're going really strong. I think their last weekly had like 60 people or something. Yeah. And it was bigger than it's usually, just because it's school starting up again and they're hitting a whole bunch of new people. But yeah. But yeah, I have a room up now. Awesome. Yeah. Alright, so I'm going to start with the Ryu Ditto. It's kind of hard for me to pick out habits in the Ryu Ditto like that hard, just because it's such like a volatile and weird matchup. But I'll switch around after I kind of like get a feel. Yeah, it reaches really, really far. It's really, really good as a DI mix-up. So you up tilt and then you run under them and then you reverse for you. And it should still be like completely true. Or just like in that sort of situation where you can run away from them for a second and then just shore you the other way. I'm not seeing anything like awful as far as habits go. I think most of that game was just kind of like the difference in punish game. Like, for example, I got a strong down tilt, and rather than doing just a fireball, I did grab, up air, up tilt, nair, nair, down air. So it's like, one thing to be really, really careful about is like, out of strong down tilt, you can go for like things like fireball and things like Tatsu that'll like kind of put your opponent back into neutral. But sometimes it's a better idea to kind of like, to do something other than that. So like, for example, I did grab, but you could do even like just run up and like try and catch a jump with like a nair, or the idea is just kind of like those options are like guaranteed percent, the like fireball and the Tatsu, but they put your opponent back into kind of like neutral afterwards. Whereas you can use options like that are a little bit more risky and are kind of like more of like 50-50 sort of options to keep your opponent in disadvantage for longer. So probably the one that I use the most is that strong down tilt to grab. They have two options. Either they don't DI up and the grab is like true from their like hitting the ground, or if they DI up and they can jump out of it. But then once they jump out of it, then they're still in disadvantage and it's a lot easier to catch their landing. So that's what I do a lot against like characters like Diddy. I'll do the strong down tilt, and a lot of them have started jumping out of it, and then I try and catch them when they don't have their jump and just carry them off stage into a gimp. So basically what you're doing isn't necessarily wrong, it's just there might be better potential punishes that you're missing out on. It depends on the matchup and it depends on the situation, but it's something to kind of think about. For me, I always try and keep my opponent in disadvantage for like as long as I can, especially in like neutral heavy matchups. like Sheik or Diddy, where like I know I'm not going to get that many openings. For me, it's much more valuable to keep them at disadvantage for longer and see if I can get even like a longer string or like a couple of consecutive like stronger hits, just to kind of extend that rather than taking like one guaranteed opening for like 20% and then having to deal with neutral again. Because both Sheik and Diddy, like they have those kind of like really good neutral options that'll get them like 20%, like forward throw bouncing fish from Sheik, and like up throw back air from Diddy. So they, if you're only getting that like 20% off of your openings, that's like you're basically matching Sheik and Diddy's punish game, which is like against them when they're going to be getting so many openings, you're always going to be kind of playing from behind. That's little stuff that'll happen. But you can see how just like the punish game is like super important in this matchup in specific, where like rather than ending my confirms with like a back air or like something and only getting like a little bit of percent, I'm always trying to just extend it for as long as I can, whether it's like resetting it with like a down air into the ground and then turning the combo around, or whether it's like even using something like an air that might not do as much damage as a combo ender, but just kind of like leaves them in a state where they're right beside you and you can kind of go for something still. Oh, also one thing that I am kind of noticing is that anytime that you're like approaching or you're spacing, a lot of the time you're facing away from Ryu. Or sorry, not facing away from Ryu, but you're just facing away from your opponent. So all you're really able to get is either a back air that is like pretty safe, which is good, but yet again, it's only like the 15, 16%. Or you're hitting like with reverse nairs that you can't really like convert into anything. So I challenge you to like try and only use not necessarily use back air less, but only use nair when you're facing forwards. Try and like think about those options that you're gonna use before, but I guess before you use them, in the sense where like if you think you're gonna be doing an air on opponent, make sure that you're facing forwards. And then I'd also challenge you just to use forward air a little bit more, because I think it's really, really good. It is possible to like shield grab it, but like it reaches so far forward, and if you're even like only slightly like fading forward, it can be really, really safe on shield with just how much shield stun it has. And it's also just like a much better combo starter than, well, not necessarily much better combo starter than like nair or something, but just like you'll get more off of a forward air than a back air. Back air will usually put your opponent much further away, whereas forward air, you could get like a forward air into a back air, or like a forward air up air, you know, like that sort of stuff. Yeah. Yeah, there were a couple of opportunities there, but that's something that's like, I'm sure you know that that's like one thing that you have to work on, and just kind of like always have to work on and always have to keep up to par, which is really really hard with Ryu. Is just those Shoryus, and Shoryu conversions, especially trying to do them off of one up tilt, or one tilt in general, is so hard. One thing that's also happening is when you get me off stage, a lot of the time, well, not necessarily too safe. There are a couple of times when you push off stage a little bit too hard, and then you're forced to, like, you end up Tatsuing back on stage. So there were a couple of times that game where you either just like put yourself in a little bit of a weird situation, so you just jumped and then you Tatsued back onto the stage. So you just want to make sure that you're not pushing a little bit too far as like edge guarding and actually going off stage, that you end up giving up stage control. Cause yeah, basically in that situation, you Tatsu back on stage, and then I'm just free to get back up onto stage however I like. So if you can take it a little bit slower and just punish Bayo's edge, like her options getting off of ledge, that's much better than potentially like going too far off. The other thing is just make sure that you're respecting Bayo's up B at ledge, because she can just hold down on it. You really have to make sure that you either hold shield on it, or just make sure that you're kind of standing away from it enough that the up B won't hit you through the stage. Oops. Yeah, you backered, or you tried to jump on a hit stun and the backer covered it, and then you didn't have your jump. So the big thing that you're missing against Sheik is just like, I think you're committing a little bit too hard before she does anything. And so like kind of like jumping in when she's still in neutral and she can just kind of like walk back and grab it. You just want to make sure that you're playing in a way that if she's giving up stage control and like backing up, you want to make sure that you're just letting her corner herself, and then punish. And then if she's not doing that, then that means that she's kind of like pushing forward and trying to do her own things. And then in that case, like jumping around and throwing out huge hitboxes is just really, really good. It's just a matter of making sure that you're not doing that into somebody who's just trying to react over and over to those jump-ins. And then the other thing is just like the punish game, of course, still. Most of the things that I was getting hit by were just kind of like stray aerials, like stray back air, even like weak down air in one of the situations. Whereas the punishes that I'm getting on you are just like forward air, forward throw, bouncing fish, which does like 22 or so. And if Sheik is like out punishing you, then that's immediately gonna make that matchup so rough. Yeah, so yeah, it's something that's not like easy to do. Like punish game is something that's kind of like abstract and kind of hard to work on compared to other things. But I definitely say that one of the biggest things for Ryu anyway is making sure that you are reacting to the hits rather than kind of like predicting where they might go off the hits. So of course you should always have an idea in your head of where a hit might send, but then with DI and stuff it changes things so much that you really just have to react to everything, and it'll make your combos worse for a little bit. But once you kind of get used to reacting to hits rather than just yeah, so basically you want to be able to do things like reacting to your up tilt hitting, and then your first up tilt hitting, and then punish accordingly, or like you want to be able to react to whether they're DIing in on a nair or out on a nair, as well as whether you hit with strong nair or whether you hit with weak nair. And that stuff is really hard because nair has like four different hitboxes, and they're like, it's hard to tell which one you're getting all the time. Then like forward air has like 3 or 4 different hitboxes as well, and it's just kind of like, but with all these different hitboxes and all these different situations, it's really, really important for your combo game to just make sure that you're reacting to those things rather than just kind of like letting them happen, I guess. So yeah, it's something that's kind of like, it's hard because for a character like Sheik or a character like Diddy, it's just kind of like, okay, I can forward throw and then bouncing fish, and like there's no way that they get out of that. Like, you know, I can make my mind up on that before I even throw, and there's nothing I really have to think about. But with Ryu for his punish game, it's very much like, okay, I'm not sure where they're gonna go, but all of Ryu's moves have such a high amount of hit stun so that you can actually just react and then move and punish accordingly. It's a gift and a curse, basically. Oh, sorry. Yeah, so that's one big habit I'm noticing, is just jumping out of hit stun too often. Especially against a character like Sheik who can just continue comboing you and kind of like, you lose your jump against her, you should just get bouncing fish off stage over and over. You really, really want to hold that jump for as long as you can. Which means mixing in things like focus attacking out of combos more often, even like shoryuing out of combos more often. Yeah. So yeah, part of it is like knowing what will potentially work, but another part of it is right now, like, I don't have any reason to fear you like shoryuing out of combos or focusing out of combos, so I don't even have to think about that sort of stuff. I like, when I'm comboing, I don't have to worry about being like super strict because I know that the things that you're doing to get out of combos are basically just jumping and air dodging, and neither of those are like aggressive options. So even if these options like might not potentially work or might not be like quote unquote optimal, being able to like force your opponent to think about those things is really, really valuable, because as soon as you put those options in my head, suddenly it's like, okay, I have to make sure that my combos are super strict and super on point, because if they aren't, he might shoryu or he might focus attack out of those things. So part of it is like a fear option, but it kind of just like, it'll make your regular options better just by kind of like virtue of having multiple options to make your opponent think about, basically. Nice, very good. Yeah, so in that game, like, it was kind of the opposite. The large majority of the things you were doing to get out of combos were focusing. Um, so like the big thing is just making sure that A, you're not replacing one habit with another, and B, that you're just using using as many options as you can. The like two things that come into unpredictability are the two things that go into unpredictability are timing and then like choosing multiple options. And obviously, like in combos, timing is something that like kind of goes out the window because you can't really just like delay an air dodge when, you know, they're like comboing and you only have like a few frames. So timing kind of goes out the window and it's kind of just the options you're choosing. So you just want to make sure that you, like the four like big options for Ryu, I'd say are like Shoryu, focus, jump, air dodge. And then you could probably throw in stuff like Nair and forward air as well, depending on like how true the combo is. But you want to make sure that you're using all of those and that you're using all of those like about equally, so that anybody comboing you has to think about all of those options when they're comboing you. Yeah, so it's just kind of like respecting your opponents enough that like, well, you kind of just have to be like, will they catch this here? Have I done it before? And like each time you get like hit into a combo situation and you catch yourself like do something out of it, just try and keep like a little bit of like a mental note in your head as to what you did and what you're going to do next time. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Especially when it's a situation like the end of the game there, where you got hit slightly off stage and then you used it to like jump right back on stage. And once you're kind of like jumping in at that sort of angle, it's very it's not hard at all to cover. Just because like there's like Ryu's aerial mobility is so bad. He can't like jump forward and then like drift back to ledge. Like as soon as he jumps forward, it's like you know where he's gonna land. So yeah, in that situation, it was kind of just like I know where he's gonna land. I see that he's jumping in, and then I was able to throw you back off stage and punish you when you didn't have your jump. Yeah. Yeah, so it's just like little stuff like that. I'm not seeing anything like awful as far as habits. It's just like that kind of like little stuff where you're putting yourself in bad situations. Also, like at the start of that second stock on the right side of the stage, you like ended up like slipping off of the stage and then had to like shore you back onto the stage. And rather than being able to use your invulnerability, it just kind of like all went astray there, and I was able to punish you for it. Yeah, so I think that's like... Oh, sorry, I was yawning. That's like the big thing. I mean, it's a whole bunch of little things that are kind of adding up to kind of like big issues for you. So little things like improving on punish game, making sure not to jump out of hit stun, and then also just like those little situations where you put yourself in disadvantage just because of the options that you choose. Oh, that's like jumping out of hit stun is when like I'm ferrying you across the stage and you're in stun from being hit, and you just like mash jump out of it. Yep, no worries. It's okay, as long as you see it now, that's the first step to fixing it. Charizard's back air is very, very strong. But yeah, so like the very first step to fixing that sort of thing is just making sure that you understand it, and I can definitely see that you understand it now. And then also try and make sure that you're not replacing one habit with another. So definitely don't like just completely filter that out of your game, because it is an option that is potentially good. It's just a matter of making sure. Yeah, exactly. Okay. I'm sorry about that again. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So do you see how that like reverse nair you couldn't get anything off of because you were facing the wrong way? Oh, whoops. That's my bad. Mm-hmm. But yeah, you can see that like that I nared you there, and then I went out for the forward air, and my forward air just caught you out of your jump, and it put you in a really, really rough situation again. So yeah, I'd say the biggest things to work on is just kind of like ironing out that disadvantage, your disadvantage state, which means just kind of like making sure that you use more options, and that the options that you use in certain situations are going to be like the ones that'll get you punished the least. Like for example, if like a Sheik does like forward tilt and you're not in percent to die to the up air, sometimes it's a lot better to just get hit by the up air than to like air dodge and potentially get hit by a vanish. So just kind of like trying to balance that risk reward. As well as just making sure that you're not putting yourself in disadvantage in parts of the matchups where you have advantage. And then the last thing was just like punish game, making sure that when you're going for aerials and stuff, you're doing them in a way that would potentially get you a punish, which means making sure that you're trying to face forward whenever you nair, rather than doing reverse nairs, and that sort of thing. No problem, dude. No problem, dude. You have a nice day.